Okay, y'all. So for the team meeting project, this project is going to be a little bit different than other projects you may have done in the past when you worked with teams. This is not a presentation. Instead, it's a meeting. So you will be using Zoom to meet with your team members for 25 minutes to work through a problem and develop solutions. Now, I'm giving you a very specific problem solving strategy, and that is John Dewey's problem solving process. So that's a 7 step process. And you also will be given a case study, and that case study is called Down City Motors. And what it's about is at Down City Motors, you're going to be given information about the kind of company that is and the kind of leaders running that organization. And there's an employee who has taken to social media and they are posting things on social media that are troubling to some of the leaders in your organization. And so there are a few questions that have been raised, which include what do we do with this particular employee? And then also, what kind of policy should we make at our organization around social media use by our employees? So you and your team have been hired by this hypothetical company to come in and serve as communication consultants. So your job is to help them understand how to communicate to their employee the consequences of this person's actions on social media, and also how to design both social media policy for the company and how to communicate that policy out to all of the employees plus future employees as they go through their onboarding and their training process. So here's what I'd like you to do. After you read the instructions for this project and you watch this video, I want you to check out the link that I included on Dewey's problem solving process. Again, you'll notice that it's a 7 step process, but steps 1 and 2, where you're defining and analyzing the problem, I actually want you to do that as an individual. So in the project instructions, you will see step 1 says preparatory homework, and there's a list of bulleted point questions. Those are questions that you need to answer as an individual before you schedule your team meeting with your peers. And the reason that I have you do this is because I think for a team meeting to be effective, it's important for everyone to have done their homework and come to the meeting prepared with ideas and suggestions. Okay, so the first thing that you'll need to do after you read the case study is to go ahead and type out your responses to those bulleted point questions. Your responses can be in bullet form. You don't need to write an essay. You don't need to write paragraphs. It's just getting you familiar with the case study and allowing you to kind of think through what you might do in this situation if you were the sole communication consultant. The next step is to meet with your team. Now, I'm encouraging you to connect with your team the week before the assignment is due. Y'all can connect just via email and share ideas. You can connect over the phone. You can set up a virtual hangout if that's what you choose. That's really up to you and your team. The week that the presentation is due, I'd like you and your team to coordinate and find a time to connect via Zoom and have a meeting where you move through steps 3 to 5. So what I really want you to do in the meeting, I don't need you to prep ahead of time for this outside of just doing your own individual homework and being familiar with the case study. In the meeting, I'm going to have you record your session where y'all are developing criteria so that you can evaluate solutions with a thoughtful, objective, mindful eye. So criteria might be, are the solutions that we're proposing to the company timely? Are they ethical? Will they be cost effective, right? Those are some examples of criteria. You might have some additional ones, or you might want to use some of mine. But once your team decides on criteria, then you'll go through the brainstorming phase. Pay attention to the rubric that I'll be using when I'm evaluating the video that you send me, because one of the things I'm looking for is making sure that you really engage in divergent thinking in the brainstorming process, which means you don't evaluate anyone's ideas, including your own, until you get to the evaluative stage, okay? And the reason that we do this is because, again, culturally, we're trained to evaluate so quickly that it cuts off creativity. So during that brainstorming phase, y'all might choose to use the chat box. You might have post-it notes that you hold up of ideas. You might brainstorm in the moment, or you might have your team members come prepared with 2 to 3 ideas each and go around and talk about those. Once everyone's talked about them, then you can start to evaluate ideas and say, well, which ideas really surface as ones that we want to pursue, and how do they line up with our criteria? So if we've set these three pieces of criteria for evaluating our ideas, then we need to use those and talk about, do these potential solutions check off those boxes? Now, if you want to get into a cost benefit analysis, you can, but I'm not looking for that. At the end of your meeting, I'd like you to have come up with what you're going to propose to the leadership of the organization about what they should do regarding the employee, and also regarding a social media policy and how they're going to communicate that policy out. So you've really got three questions that you need to answer in 25 minutes. Now, am I evaluating you based on the quality of your ideas? No. Some of you are going to really get into this and be really creative. Others will use this as an exercise just to practice some communication skills, and that's fine. Again, look at the rubric, because what I'm going to be evaluating you on has to do with how you're communicating during a problem-solving meeting. So there's no presentation. It's a little weird, right? But you're just going to meet as if y'all were consultants and you're working remotely, and you are connecting and brainstorming together about what you might pitch to this organization. When you're finished with that meeting, designate one person to collect everybody's individual homework. So if I was the lead person, I would reach out to my 4 to 5 other team members, and I would ask them to send me their individual homework with their bulleted points and their names on it. And I would put those into an email, and then I would attach my link or my file, depending on how you recorded your presentation, and I would email that to my professor. Okay? If you have any problems or any questions, I want you to contact me. My hope is that this is actually kind of an enjoyable exercise. The other thing that's really great to remember on the rubrics is you'll see two. You're going to see one that is for your group grade, and then you'll see another one that is for your individual grade. So while I'm watching your video, I will be grading the group holistically. So I do want you to try to collaborate and work together, because it's in the best interest of your team regarding your grade. But I also acknowledge that sometimes individuals work differently with different teams, and so you will have an individual component of your grade that includes both, did you do the homework, which is really just a check, but then I'll also be looking at your attempted communicative efforts. So again, make sure you pay attention to those rubrics, because you will see things in there that pull from chapters 7 and 8 in terms of how a meeting functions, how you're moving through the problem-solving process, what kind of group roles that you fulfill. So are you serving as a functional role, a social role, encouraging others to join, etc.? Are you functioning as a task role? And then also I'll be looking at how you brainstorm. So if your group engages in evaluative comments before you get to the evaluation stage of the problem solving process, you'll lose some points there. So remember to be really generous and creative. Again, if you have questions, don't hesitate to let me know. I cannot wait to watch your meetings.